Okay, so I wanted to speak a little bit about Amalek, and this is from what you see on your screen. What I'm sharing is with you is stuff which I've said over the written down about Purim, about Baruch Hashem, about 100 some odd pages, and so there are a few Chazals I want to address, a few psukim. So first of all, Chazal say that Gedol Hasoras Tabas Yoser Mei Arbaim Shmon Neviim Shamdu Yisrael. When Achashverosh took off his ring and gave it to Haman, that was more effective in getting the Jews to do tshuva than all the Nevi'im who stood up and gave Am Yisrael Mussar over the years. Worked better. The question is, what does that represent? Obviously, move the ring means Achashverosh gave his ring to Haman to sign the document to destroy the Jews. But perhaps there's something else here which we can talk about. Then it says, Kiara case kom Yechomol Hashem b'Amalek midor dor. This is a pasuk in the Parshas B'Shalach. It talks about the after the war which Yoshua wages against Amalek in the Midbar. So Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu and to tell Yoshua that Hashem puts a hand, like an oath, al case ka, on his throne, and he says it's a war for Hashem b'Amalek midor dor, from generation to generation. So Chazal say the word case is short for kisei, a chair, a throne. And the word, the name of Hashem, Yud K, Yah, is short for the full name of Hashem, Yud K Vav K, the full four-letter name. And Chazal say, Ein Hashem Sholem, Bein HaKisei Sholem. The name of Hashem is not complete, and the throne of Hashem is not complete, Ad Shimach Zar Shamalek, until the descendants of Amalek are destroyed. So what does it signify? That the name of Hashem is not complete and the throne of Hashem is not complete until that time. So let's talk about the first word, case. And case's letters, kaf samach. The way I transliterate, although there's not really the way it's done, kaf I'm writing as a C, and an O, and a samach as an O. You see that? You all see that on the screen? Okay, so C-O is case, and C-O-A would be kisei. Okay, so case, like means ke samach, like a samach. Samach is the only letter in the original Lashon HaKodesh that is completely closed, right? Totally closed. It is therefore represents concealment, something which is hidden. And that's why the word michseh means a lid. Michseh is mem chaf samach hey, and kisui means a cover. Chaf samach vav yud. I'm going to skip the Kabbalistic part over here. And a case is probably kisei because it covers you when you're sitting down, right? A kisei covers you, covers your bottom, and covers your back. And also, it looks like a cuff and a samach. If you take a look at a chair, the back of the chair is like a cuff, this back, and the base of the chair is like a samach. You sit on the samach, and the cuff is the back. That's a kisei. So without the aleph, the word is, the entire world is kaf samach. It's concealment. Mechuseh. We don't. The aleph represents Hashem. Hashem echad. Hashem is the one, the first, the unique, the only. Shema Yisrael Hashem echad. So Hashem is the aleph. Until Amalek is destroyed, we don't. The throne is not complete. We don't see the aleph Hashem behind the kaf, behind the concealment, behind the barrier, which Golus represents us, which Amalek presents to us. So what breaks? How do we break through that concealment? How do we break through and see Hashem? Now, there's a beautiful pasuk in Shiur HaShirim, really beautiful pasuk. It says about Hashem and his relationship to us. Hashem stands behind the wall. He pays attention to us through the windows, and he looks through the cracks. In other words, even if we don't see Hashem outright, nevertheless, he's there. And he's always watching us. So, but there's a wall. So it's not so easy to see. When can you see Hashem? like you perceive Hashem, so to speak. So it's Chazal say, B'shloshet Dvarim ha'adam nikar. In three things, you can recognize the real quality of a person, what he really is. Bekiso, Bekaso, Ubekoso. When he has to give tzedakah, he has to give money, so then he can tell, is he really generous or not? People can talk a lot, but if people want to, when push comes to shove, if they're asked to give money, that's when you can tell if they are for real, if they're generous or not generous. Picasso, when a person gets angry, the way they act in their anger indicates their personality. Because when you get angry, the normal barriers which hold you back are down, and then your real self comes out. And sometimes it's not so pretty to see your real self. Sometimes it's better. So Picasso, when a person gets angry, you can see who he really is. Picoso means when a person gets drunk. So you can tell what really goes on inside of him. When great rabbis get drunk on Purim, they start speaking words of Torah and start singing songs to praise HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When people are not such great rabbis get drunk, they don't do such great things. So therefore, you can tell what a person is in those three ways: Bekiso, Bekaso, Bekoso. Now, the remarkable thing about these three words is that they all have a kaf samach, but the kaf and samach are split apart by a letter in the middle. The kis has a yud in the middle. Kas has an ayin in the middle. Kos has a vav in the middle. In other words, what breaks the kisui? What breaks apart the concealment? How do you see deep into a person's soul? What takes the kaf and splits it apart from the samach? So those letters, yud, ayin, and vav, are what breaks. They break open the kis, the kas, and the kos. They break open the kisui, which normally a person puts upon themselves, the way in which the wall which they put upon themselves to not give everybody a true impression of what their real character is. So if you take those middle letters, yud, ayin, and vav, and you make a gematria of them, it's 86, which also happens to be the gematria of the word kos again. And I think that because the kos, the main way you can tell what's in a person's inside is if they get drunk, but it's also the gematria of the name Elokim. We have two main names of Hashem, Yud-Kei, Vav-Kei, and Elokim. As you probably might have learned, Yud-Kei, Vav-Kei is a name that's associated with the Midas HaRachamim, with Hashem's kindness, and Elokim is a name which is associated with Midas Hadin, with Hashem's judgment. But it's more than that. The name Yud-Kei, Vav-Kei is when Hashem reveals himself in a way which shows that he's with us and he's helping us and has, so to speak, has our back. And that happens when there are great miracles, whether it's a great miracle like the Torah being given in Har Sinai, whether it's a great miracle like the Jews being saved during the 6-day war from all the Arabs. Those miracles are times when you can see Hashem. You see that Hashem is in charge of the world. It's obvious. And that has to do with Hashem's chesed, because when Hashem reveals himself, obviously there's kindness, that Hashem is doing miracles and good things for us. The name which we always have Hashem is Elokim. Elokim is the name of Hashem which represents Midas Hadin, because it represents things the way they are in daily life. In daily life, you don't always see the chesed of Hashem. It's more, you see the Hashem has a plan, there's justice in the world, but you don't see Hashem necessarily revealed in all of his Midas HaRachamim. So the name Elokim is that name which we always have. Even if we don't have a great revelation, like a great miracle, a great chesed of Hashem, when you say who's standing behind the walls, who's there always, the name Elokim, the name which is with us even in our time of being, so to speak, concealment, time when Hashem is hidden from us. So that is the shame of Hashem Elokim, which you can always find if you break apart the Kaf Samach a little bit. There's a word in the Megillah which has a similar idea. It says, Lech kinos es kol Yehudim. Go gather all the Jews. That's what Esther said to Mordechai. Go gather all the Jews to David. So it's interesting. The word kinos also is a kaf and a samech split apart by the nun and vav in the middle. So what does it tell us? It tells us a way to break through the concealment, like Hashem was concealing himself during at the time of the of Achashverosh and Haman. The way to break through that is to gather all the Jews together with the Achdus and davening with Achdus. That's how we can reconnect to Hashem, and we can break through the barriers which seem to be between us and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, you might have heard this before, that whenever it says in the Megillah, HaMelech, the king, it's not just referring to Achashverosh, it's also referring to Hashem. And if you listen to the Megillah well, you learn the Megillah well, you can really see anytime it says HaMelech, that not HaMelech Achashverosh, but this is the word HaMelech by itself. You can see how it's operating on two levels. Like when Esther speaks to Achashverosh, she's also davening to Hashem at the same time. So HaMelech represents Hashem, wherever it's in the Melech. Now, it's interesting because that HaMelech in Gematria is 95, and Haman in Gematria is also 95. They're both 95, opposites, right? So it's why the correspondence? So what's the difference? Haman ends with the Nun Sophis. Now, Nun, we might know, represents falling down, right? That's why the word Nun doesn't appear in Ashrei, right? Because the Nun Sophis is really falling down, because you go much further down, right? And not only that, the Nun has a very narrow roof. It's not rooted. It's not held up, so it can fall down very far. In the Chav Sophis, which is at the end of HaMelech, it also goes down, but it has a much larger roof, much wider roof. And that roof holds it in place. It's not as likely to fall. Even if it goes below the line, nevertheless, it's much more likely to fall. Why is that? Because the Chav Sophist in HaMelech is preceded by a Lamed. Now, a Lamed is a very interesting letter. In the early days of computers, or in the Hebrew word processing in the 1980s, the companies had a very big difficulty with the letter Lamed, because Lamed, there's no similar letter in English. But with that I mean, Lamed is a letter which goes above the line of all the other letters, right? It goes above the line. There's no letter in English which goes above the lines of all the other letters. So letters which go below, J, lowercase j, Q, whatever, but no letter goes above. Now that, I could be that there are other languages in which there are letters which go above the line, but it's significant that in Hebrew we have it and in English we don't. And therefore, they had all sorts of solutions, like make a lamed, like kind of compress the lamed so it all fits in, squeeze it. Or sometimes they used to make a lamed without a top. And some old Sidurim sometimes see that they bend the lamed over so it'll fit. So lamed represents limud, learning Torah, right? And with a learning Torah and keeping Torah, we can go above the line. We stretch out towards Hashem. We stretch out towards HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what learning does. There's an interesting Zohar which says, I know, Lahavdil, if you ever heard the fairy tale about Rapunzel, but the similar ideas in the Zohar, it says that the top of Lam is like a tower, and in the tower lives a princess, and that princess is the Jewish people. So that means when we're learning Torah, it's as if we're in that tower, connected to Kadosh Baruch Hu. So it's precisely because we're connected above that we're anchored, and then even though we have a line which goes down, we're not in danger of falling. So the Lamed and the Chav Sophis come together because we go up, therefore we're not going to fall down even when we face difficulties. Okay, that's Haman and Amalek. Haman also wanted to make himself like a god, right? Because I'll say he made himself to Avodah Zarah. But ultimately he fell. We don't fall because we have that connection. Now, the what does it mean that, coming back now to Ein Hashem Shalom Ben Akisi Shalom Shemach Zar Shalom? So we already explained. He say without when Amalek is around, when there's evil in the world, when we haven't been able to eliminate evil, so then we don't see the Aleph of Hashem. We only have the Kaf Samech without the Aleph. But the name of Hashem also, the name of Hashem is an acrostic. An acrostic can be understood as an acrostic. Acrostic means that each of the letters represents a word. So Yud K Vav K, a Yud and a Hey and a Vav and a Hey, right? So there's we say in davening, Yismichu Hashamayim v'Sogel Haaretz. Let the heavens are happy, and the land rejoices. So before Amalek is destroyed, before Mashiach comes, we only have Yismichu Hashamayim. The name is not complete. In heaven, there's happiness. And we talk about times which are Mein Olam Haba, which are like Olam Haba, Shabbos Mein Olam Haba, and Yom Tovim could be like Olam Haba, and special occasions could be like Mein Olam Haba. That's a time when we go up to levels which are like Shamayim, and we get that simcha which comes from being connected higher up. But the land, Olam Hazeh, on earth, as long as it's even the world, there can't be V'Sogel Haaretz. The land can't have that simcha because there's too much evil around. So therefore, only when Amalek is destroyed, when evil is destroyed, then it's not just going to be Yismichu Hashamayim, but it's also going to be V'Sogel Haaretz. Now, this kind of leads us to the ring. Gedol HaSaras Tabas. Removal of the ring was a great thing for to get Am Yisrael to do tshuva. And there are many ways of interpreting that, but one way I would think is that the tabas, the ring, is like a samach. It's the covering, right? So in order to, when Hashem removed the covering and showed Am Yisrael how he saves them, that was a time when Am Yisrael went up to a very high level. And that's why it says that I have this here. I guess I have it somewhere else. But in any event, the point is that it says that the Bnei Yisrael at the time of the Knesset of Esther, Hadar Kiblu B'Mei Achashverosh. They accepted the Torah again. They accepted our sin, they accepted again. This time they accepted with love because of the miracle. And that's they saw that with the Torah, with living and learning Torah, one has a special connection with Hashem, which breaks through all those barriers which normally we suffer from. And therefore they decided this is a time to re-accept the Torah with great simcha. Because we see when Gedol HaSaras Tabas, when the concealment was removed, we saw how well we can connect to Hashem through our Torah and through our mitzvahs. And that's why the name of Hashem doesn't appear outright in the Megillah at all. It's to show that, yes, Hashem is concealed, but if you go and you break apart the Kaf and Samach, if there's a way to break apart the Kaf and Samach and see how Hashem is behind everything and controls everything and is always involved with us and always there to save us and always there to help us. Now, there's another thing I want to tell you about that. It says in that pasuk, which I'd started, one of the I started with, that Milchama Hashem b'Amalek midor dor. Midor dor means generation to generation. But things like this, it's interesting. It says elsewhere in Tanakh, we say it in davening also, Yimloch Hashem yolam el kayich Tzion lidor vador. Here it says dor, generation, generation. But we often say dor vador, or lidor vador nagi godlecha. What's the difference? It says generation and generation versus generation. So I think the answer is like this. The answer is that when is there a war? When is the war against Amalek unsuccessful? When the generations are not linked together. When each generation is on its own and doesn't relearn, doesn't understand. It's the history of the Jewish people going back generation to generation to Har Sinai. Because Amalek says, in here and now, we don't seem so special, the Jewish people. Maybe we aren't special. But when you look back at our history, when you go back all the way to Har Sinai, look at the history since then, and all the amazing things that happened to Am Yisrael, both good and bad, you see how Am Yisrael is a special connection, the special role, the special mission of being a Mamlechas Kohanim B'Goy Kadosh, a nation of priests and a holy nation. So that is something which you can only see if you connect generation to generation. If each generation stands on its own, you won't get that message. That's in the Dor Vador. And we say that in Nagada. Not just one person came against us. Dor Vador. Every generation, you could see all the places in history where our enemies stood against us, and we see that Hashem saved us. And that's Dor Vador. Amalek says, don't look at history. Look at yourselves today. You're nothing. You're not significant. We say, no, make sure that look back Dor Vador. As we connect all the generations together, then you'll see how going back to Purim, how going back to Har Sinai, how there's that connection going back. That's why Chazal say it's interesting thing about Purim. Chazal say that based on the Megillah itself, it says that it says in Megillah that Purim lo yavu mitocha Yehudim zichron lo yosef mizar. The days of Purim will never pass from the Jews, and there will never be moved from their descendants. And there's amazing Rashba, one of the Rishonim, who says that even in generations where all the other holidays are forgotten because of great pain and great trials like the Holocaust, Purim is never forgotten. And there's the other Chazal, the Rambam brings down, says that eventually all the holidays will be insignificant because the great holiday of Mashiach's coming will be much more significant than all the holidays we have, except one. Purim. Purim is always going to be significant. It says also that all the other Nevi'im and Ksuvim, they're not going to be so significant anymore at that time, except for Megillah Esther. Because Esther is always going to be significant because of this idea that Purim will always last throughout history, through eternity, because it represents that connection with eternity. Let's connect. This is a plug for learning Jewish history. You go back in time through Purim, and you can go ahead, and that's what allows us to understand throughout time how we've been special. Yeah.
You said that like Purim would be like the most significant, but what about like Pesach?
So Pesach is Pesach is how we were redeemed from taking out of Golus. So the taking out of Golus when Mashiach comes will be even greater than taking out of Golus at the time of Mitzrayim. So that's why they say that simcha of being taken out of Golus at the end of time by Mashiach will be a much greater simcha than Pesach. And most of our Yom Tovim are Zecher Yetzias Mitzrayim. They're to commemorate our leaving Egypt. So therefore, the Yom Tovim, which are to commemorate the ultimate Gula when Mashiach comes, are going to be much greater because they're much more powerful and much more real to us. But Purim doesn't celebrate that. Purim doesn't celebrate a Gula when he came back to Israel. Purim happened in Chutz La'aretz, and they stayed in Chutz La'aretz. And there's a Chazal which says, "Reason we don't say Halam Purim is Akate Avdei Achashverosh Anachnu." So Paro were no longer slaves to him, but Achashverosh was still slaves to Achashverosh. Not literally. It means it was still on Golus. So Purim is not something which has to do with the Geula. It has to do with how we function even in Golus. And therefore, there's nothing which is going to be able to replace Purim emotionally. Because emotionally, Pesach will replace by, and the other Yom Tov have to do Geula, that's going to be a greater Geula. But Yom Tov, which celebrates just our connection with Hashem, wherever we are, no matter where we are, that is unique. And that's special to Purim. Okay, so that's
Purim and Pesach are connected to two different things.
What?
So like Purim is connected to how we are in Galus.
Yes.
Like Pesach is Zecher Yetzias Mitzrayim.
Yes. It's not Yetzias Mitzrayim. What did you say was the second thing you said?
To remember Yetzias Mitzrayim.
Not Purim. Purim's not about remembering Yetzias Mitzrayim.
No, I'm talking about Pesach.
Yes, right. Exactly. Okay, so girls, we should all have a great Purim. Hopefully we'll be able to see each other in school next week. And we should remember to try and eliminate Amalek by trying to fight evil in the world and trying to be good people. Have a great Shabbos.
Thank you.
Bye.
Shabbos.
Shabbos.